Hey everyone, it is Patrick McLain back as one of your hosts of Reimagine. I think now we call it 2021. This is actually, I do very few interviews now and call it come out of retirement for a few. The guy I'm lucky to talk to is one of them. But yeah, kicking off a new year, I think everything that we wanted to talk about last year, I feel like came to a head at like the point of this conversation in January, which is for better or worse, this market is nuts, or what people perceive of this market is nuts. You could call it whatever you want, BTC, Bitcoin. I think on a next guest here will have opinions on that. The price went from X to Y. People have like many expectations of what's going to happen. And I think it's increasingly important always in these moments to take a second, breathe, and like listen to unique perspectives. So before I go on too long, Craig, how is your New Year so far? How's life? How's the family? How's everything in the UK?
Yeah, everything's as good as you can really expect with restaurants are shut down and things like that. But other than that, yeah, apart from a few little bits of travel and restaurants, can't really complain.
So you're missing restaurants? You're missing food?
Food, no, but restaurants, definitely. I put myself through university before, sort of doing government work and helping pay that way with my original uni, working as a chef at night. So uh, I like good food. Sorry, but restaurants are essential. I think they should be there. The sort of irony people don't get is that everyone thinks restaurants are something for like, the wealthy or whatever else. Restaurants are traditionally the opposite. The restaurant developed, the whole food sort of area developed as a means of individuals who weren't rich being able to have kitchens and all the rest. Very few high-end restaurants really existed in the past. The majority of restaurants were for normal people. So, ironically, as a wealthy person and whatever else, you can always get people to come around and cook for you and whatever else. It's not the same though. The atmosphere, the everything else is important. And even during COVID here in Britain, if you're wealthy enough, then you can always have good food cooked. You can hire chefs who will still come around and under the exemptions they need to work, they're covered. So rich people don't suffer, poor do. But and I came from a poor background. I like sort of the treat of having a restaurant, even if it's not a treat anymore.
No, definitely. I mean, I'm looking at it from the outside in the US, and like I've seen it, and I tend to fall in the same category. I think like my favorite social activity is to
Mm.
like sit with friends or open a nice bottle of wine,
Hmm.
hunting out chefs that like you've never looked at their menu and they just bring you food, but you trust them is like
Yep.
it can, if you do it properly, it can be this culinary experience. And I feel
Mm.
like a lot of businesses got wiped out, right? And restaurants are this
Oh, I
clear
know.
example of like, what were you saying?
I find that's one of the worst aspects of all this that no one's considering. Um, it's polarizing society. Um, I mean, I started incredibly poor and now I'm incredibly rich. So from my point of view, it needn't affect me. I've got a full commercial kitchen downstairs. We know chefs and things that would come around and work and all the rest. So I need not suffer. But that's the problem. Um, People like myself, politicians, the wealthy, don't suffer in any of this. It's the people making the decisions who sit there going, well, I'm fine. The people who sit there um, in the White House and number 10, whatever else, in governors' mansions and wealthy apartments and all the rest who have chefs, have staff, and sit there and go, well, I don't get to go to a restaurant, but unfortunately, I've only got my small support bubble of my staff, and my kitchen staff are down to only 5 people, and sitting there complaining that make the decisions, and this really sucks. I mean, you can't sort of think about what you're like. Like, I mean, I can sit there and say, oh, life's great for me, but what about everyone else? What about the people who own those restaurants?
You made, well, exactly, right? Like, and I saw another one today. A good friend of mine, a guy I know him from San Francisco, had his famous guy, a restaurant in New York, restaurant in San Francisco. I know him all the way through Bali. Opened this really cool concept in Bali. Was very successful. Today, the long, just even seeing from San Francisco, the long list of places that have shut down. Right? It's like, to your point, this is wiping out things, or like businesses, I guess, like. But I don't know. I was talking to someone earlier, and like you're saying, like, so is it a social element for you? Like, what do you enjoy about it? Because I think the thing that will get pulled away, and I was talking to a friend earlier who's just, and this is my argument back in April, May, just like, how many months can you keep people locked up? And if people aren't going to go out to eat, and they can't go to a bar to drink, and they can't do this and they can't do that, what is going to be the side effect? And like, is it accelerating? Is it accelerating faster? Are we seeing elements of it today that, like,
yes, it's accelerating, and Stalin managed to do it for over 20 years. All you need to do is boil the frog slowly.
So is that where we're at right now? Is that why?
Yes, we're slowly turning the heat up. I would argue that, yes. We're not considering the actual cost effects of all of this. We're saying we need to do whatever for the disease, and we're not sort of evaluating the cost in lives and far more over time. We're not educating children, and this is directly impacting those who are in poverty. So we talk about equality and whatever else, and yet students who are rich are fine. I mean, I can afford to pay for tutors and things like this for my daughter, but people who were brought up like I was when I was young, single parents, single mothers, whatever else, who are living on the edge of desperation anyway, are not going to be able to afford tutors. They're not going to be able to afford the same level of internet, the connections, all the other requirements. So when, like, my daughter's schools dropped from 6 lessons to only 2 a day now, most students will just lose out, whereas those who are wealthy can pay for the other 4 lessons independently. So I think that's wrong. I mean, it might work it helps my family and I will do it, but I still think it's wrong.
It's 100% wrong. And like the amount of money that's been distributed from I don't know. This is my perspective, not to get too political, but yeah, like businesses have been wiped out, and there's not been like a substantial effort to fund those during this time of economic uncertainty. If you would tie the economic uncertainty to a specific cause, which if you were to say if we have a cause now, which they might want to blame all on this, is say it's COVID. But actually, it leads me to another thing I want to ask you about, which I think is a bigger topic. And it's something that I've seen in my own life lately, or I've been thinking about, which is basically, I can't avoid it, right? Like I'm in this industry called blockchain. And in the last 60 days, 90 days, whatever, like it's gotten larger, right? Like money has grown. Like now,
I would argue
hang on. I know you're gonna have 10 arguments here, and I'm gonna give you the floor. Just let me frame it. And I'll just say from my side. So I'm just saying If I just say like, could I put $1 here and take $1 back, and like I could realize that dollar in my bank account. So just you could forget about the mechanics of what I'm saying for a second, but just to say that in this time where all of these jobs are getting wiped out, right? Restaurant jobs, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these people now that can point to this thing and say, look, what I call Bitcoin, and I'm saying this carefully for you, like what I call Bitcoin has gone up in price, or this coin has gone up in price. So like, what would your message be to the people that are like looking for alternative revenue sources right now, and that are looking at this market that is quote unquote making money? And how do you think about it? How do you think other people should think about it?
Okay, so you cannot guess sort of casinos and hope that everything's going to work out. And effectively, that's what people are doing at the moment. They are looking and taking effectively what is a casino and gambling. And the reality here is it's very easy to determine values across markets if you can see what the distributions are, and the exchanges have those. You can look at trading volumes, you can look at sort of forward orders, all sorts of information that you can pull from these exchanges, inverted commas. Now, the way you do it isn't how many coins by whatever the market clearing rate is. That's an error. What you have to do is take the area under the distribution. Now, if we were just to guesstimate a Gaussian distribution, which it isn't, it's actually Pareto distributed, so a power law. But say we take the two sides, what we're doing is we have the bell curve there, and basically look at how many areas are there. So rather than straight across as a distribution number of coins by whatever, we actually have a far smaller value. Now, the market is going to be tighter if there is less liquidity. So that bell curve, as I said, it's not actually a bell curve, it's power law, but I'm simplifying, will be wider, have a larger statistical deviation if we're talking about something that has a lot of liquidity. But Bitcoin has very low liquidity. So it's a very, very tight sort of curve. And the tighter it is, the smaller the actual value of the system. So the reality here is there is very little money in BTC at the moment. That's the irony people don't get.
Like when I go to coinmarketcap.com right now, I see market cap 940, and this is just, so I'll go to BTC. So
well, let's put it this way. If I invested $1 billion in gold, I would hardly move the market. I would make maybe a 0.1% difference. If I dumped $1 billion into BTC, the price would go up maybe double.
So it's the ability for people to manipulate the market is easier right now because they have the resources.
Well, it's not even the resources. I mean, Hotel California, or AKA Tether, isn't real. It is a complete, utter scam. So you have this system that they sit there going, you put your money in, but you can't take it out. So basically invest a little bit of money with us, and when you want to take it out, you find someone else to buy your stake. That is a classic definition of an illegal Ponzi. So effectively, we have this group that isn't making a stable coin. They're making an illegal derivative, unregulated, that has no value, and people are falling for it. So every time that BTC goes up, it directly correlates even at a alpha equals 1% level, statistically with movements and tether. So fake money gets printed. People do their exit dump. People who are less sophisticated effectively get screwed.
I mean, so I'll boil it down. I want to kind of move on from this point, but I want to get like kind of your general thought, because I just think like in the crypto community, and I've come to understand like you, or whatever you call it, and I'm choosing my words more carefully, but like in whatever community wars there are, you probably celebrate 35,000 BTC or whatever is Bitcoin on coinmarketcap.com in that little slot row. You celebrate that less than other people. Can you boil down for the general audience of anyone actually listening to this, like
I would celebrate that less. I would celebrate that less than a boil no longer being a boil in my ass. I would be celebrating losing a boil more than that.
Okay, but okay, all right, that's very descriptive. But can you just tell them a little bit why? Like if they're seeing something where John Doe on the street sees that if he would have given his given his little cousin $10,000, I would have put it into Coinbase, $10,000, and he would have 2 weeks later gotten $30,000 out from like got a check in his bank account. How is that a bad thing for him? How would you explain that?
Well, one, he may not get it out. So,
but currently it's feasible. Like currently it would happen. Like his $10,000.
If you're only talking 10,000, you're taking it out right now.
Yeah. But this is the audience I want to talk to.
But that's a capital gain too. So income and capital gain. So you're not getting that. So for most people, that gain needs to be taxed. Everyone's sitting there going, we don't need to pay tax. Yes, you do. And all of these exchanges are going to have to report to all of that very shortly. And if you haven't paid it, there's no moratorium on this. So there are people who will be paying more than the value of they've earned. So a lot of these so-called gains are associated with, I don't need to pay tax. So you have a high-risk speculative thing, which is about equivalent to, I've decided to put my money on black and roll the roulette ball and hope that it comes and I've got black. And now I'm going to go, well, I've made black. It must happen again. And the reality here is there's no reason to actually believe any of this. There's no use. There's no BTC doesn't have a use. I mean, all the use cases later this year are going to be torn apart. It's not about censorship resistance. Sorry, that's going to be gone. It's not about anti-government. That's going to be gone. It's not about it can't be seized. That will be gone. Everything. So what happens then when it is proven in court to be a centralized, controlled system run by a few individuals that the government can seize at will? Tell me what happens to it when there's no more narratives.
All right, my last question on this point, and then let's pivot to that. And I think you just like gave me a great on-ramp for the next conversation topics. Do you even track the price to the news anymore? Like I guess I don't know. Like I just feel like everyone is so Bitcoin 35,000. It's like you can make jokes about this. Like I actually had something the other day.
Why would I track that?
I had an ex-girlfriend message me. No, and I'm just saying, like there's memes about this. Like I had an ex-girlfriend the other day. Hey Patrick, did I have some Bitcoin that you gave me for like when the price when just in human nature, when like a number hits some target on a game board, like when you hit this jackpot prize, like we've talked about it. I'm from Vegas. Like I imagine it's like blinking lights for people. You know, so would you say that, because I've been in conversations with you before where you say,
I would say anyone who actually cares about their money in there, who believes they can get it out and leaves it thinking they're going to hoodle into more, is clinically insane. Either that or stupid, one of the two. So you'll sit there and you'll go, it's going to go up because it went up. Well, that's not a good reason. And I can't tell you what I know, but I will tell you that if you leave your money in BTC and you need that money, then you got problems.
Sure. And then institutions, all this news of institutions coming in.
What institutions? Bunch of scamming buggers and things like this. I mean, a guy who's been done by the SEC a few times, and
Michael Saylor with
it's so
MicroStrategy.
bloody scammy. It's freaking not funny. He's not an institution. He has a bloody hedge fund that is about as honest as Bernie Madoff.
Not Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor has MicroStrategy.
Yes, I know.
He has like the enterprise software company, but he took money from his company's treasury. He's like the one that kicked it off.
Mm-hmm.
And
you do realize taking money from a company's treasury to do this is not exactly legal.
No.
So you're saying,
yeah. I don't know. I don't know exactly 100%.
Look at his history.
I'm not advocating.
I wouldn't say he's terribly clean. This is the irony. All these people pointing things out against me when I've, like the tax office case, I won. And they had to apologize to me. So, and yet people sit there going, Craig was investigated by the tax office. Yes, and I won. And it turned out they made up information, and a few people in the tax office actually did a whole lot of things because they wanted me so badly. And simultaneously, we're talking about others in this industry who have, I mean, like Mr. .com there, I think he has 55 convictions at the moment for theft, espionage, like corporate espionage, everything under the sun. And people are going, wow, Kim's coming into the industry. Yeah, great. Someone who's stolen, defrauded, manipulated, insider traded, you name it in white collar crime, he's probably ticked the box. And the only reason he's free at the moment is he's hiding from the US. So
You're
it's a funny
about
industry.
Kim.com, yeah.
Yeah, funny industry here. We sit there and go, oh, this real criminal said good things about Bitcoin. They must be honest.
Well, hang on though, and let's pivot from this topic. But I need to bring this up just because I did the same for you. The guy I'm mentioning is Michael Saylor. It was like graduate degree, like rocket engineering, owns like a big software company. I think he's actually a pretty smart guy. And I don't know. Google if you need to. MicroStrategy. I didn't know
the right one.
Yeah, exactly. Look him up real quick. Trust me, I talked to him for a while. You should watch my interview with him. He's very smart, actually. Like multiple degrees in physics. Like he's very good at modeling software. He's not bullshit. He started buying Bitcoin. Actually, it made a lot of money. People are arguing that him buying it, his company buying it, like first publicly traded tech company.
Well, one,
now,
that's not correct anyway. Two, he's not institutional investor.
I wasn't saying
crumbs,
it was.
But pocket crumbs from these guys doesn't make institutional rounding errors.
Exactly. So, anyways, let's pivot off that. Let's go, I think, to what you were talking about earlier. So, I think the last few times we talked towards the end of 2020, there was a lot of stuff going on, like BitMEX, whatever, right? And I think you always have a unique view for what people think is going to just kind of like they're going to do in this market and like not be held accountable for. And I think you have like a good long tail view for like you could pretend it's not coming today, but like it's going to catch up with you basically. So I'll just hit a few points that I think have started to happen since we talked last. So I think like there's parts of the U.S. government proposing legislation around that any wallet that exchange sends to has to have KYC if it's an external wallet. I
Oh,
think
you've only got a week before it's enforced in Europe and the UK.
yeah. Okay, so
Everyone's already forgetting that this is already existing law.
exactly. So this, I think, you have these advancements in the conversation around Ripple, XRP, and the SEC, and then you have like Coinbase talking about filing for going public.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see as the confluence of all these events, like upcoming?
I think you're going to see the same as you saw in the .com crash, and it's going to be a bloodbath.
Do you kind of elaborate more? I mean,
I mean, in a 2-week period, $3 trillion was wiped off NASDAQ and whatever else nearly 20 years ago. So can this disappear overnight? Yes. The sort of liquid sort of assets involved with crypto, the trading in all of these, if anyone's really doing proper analysis, they wouldn't touch it with a pole. I mean, other than using. So if you're not using it and doing something for BTC, then you're insane. So, I mean, honestly, you can sit there and go, I've got lots of it, but I have lots of airdropped coin, and I'll be doing something when I'm ready to do something. And when it happens, people will be very much in the know because it will be incredibly public.
and when I bring up those 3 points, like, do you think that this is accelerated by some form of government intervention, like across these multitude of touch points?
No, I think it's just getting to that point now. It's large enough. Government doesn't intervene until it's large enough, unless you're unlucky. So all this, it's getting large. Well, it's not even large yet. We're still not at the cryptocurrency point from 20 years ago, before the crash. The entire market today isn't the market it was 2 decades ago. So all this, it's so big. No, it's not. And when it goes, it will go. And those industries that have real value, real use, they'll survive. Those ones that are speculative, .com, dogfood.com, basically.
Well, I mean, I think we're talking like about a few like abstract things here. Like, so I went on your like website the other day, and like I saw an article like about Coinbase, and I'll summarize it at the top, or how it didn't stop me at any time. But I think like you talk about like recent news about XRP and Ripple, the lawsuit involving them, I think with the United States government, and then like the fact that like Coinbase knew or didn't know. So,
they
I'll just
completely knew. I mean, they chose that they thought they could get away with it. There's a difference between knowing and not knowing. You want to list the company while you're doing all these things that are highly illegal, arguing it's crypto, it's different. I'll point out Arthur Badowski versus US government Liberty Exchange case from a few years ago, his appeal. I keep saying this. The judge pointed out that didn't care whether it was cryptocurrency or not. It's funding. The law says funding. And the judge went to say, I don't care whether it's diamonds, cash, or watches, and made the comment on watches. And so anything you use for funding is covered. It could be rice. So, it's not money. So what? It really doesn't matter. Anything used for funding. Tally sticks are covered. I mean, this is where people don't go. They sit there going, it won't cover me.
And for people that don't understand, do you mind maybe from your perspective explaining the XRP conversation, like as layman as you can, and then how Coinbase may or may not share.
Yeah, it has no use, no value, no nothing else. And I mean, I made that comment back on Twitter and everything to a lot of hate in 2013 when it was first launching. because
You would be you would be the most popular guy in crypto social now. You would they like if anyone would listen to you right now in the crypto market, they'd be like, man, I agree with Craig. He doesn't he says XRP is a scam. This is half the social.
I said it
points.
before it launched. So yes, when we had Coinbase executives in our office at NChain, and I basically pointed out all these things, and they chose to put their head in the sand. And
You pointed out what?
Problems with BTC, problems with Ripple, problems with Ethereum, problems with everything else. But no, it's different. We can get away with it because it's crypto. No, it's not cryptographic. You have digital signature algorithms, not encryption. There's no encryption in any blockchain. It's designed so that you cannot encrypt it.
So like Coinbase came to you guys looking for answers to questions on blockchain.
Won't go into what the conversations were all about, but yes, we had a number of conversations with Coinbase in the past for a number of reasons.
No, I mean, got it. But I guess on this topic, and you wrote publicly about it the other day, so I mean, that's why I'm curious. Like, they're like who's sitting there, and you're telling them your thoughts on like Ripple is a security,
and the whole industry and everything else. But oh no, it's different. I tried to point out that these are just dematerialized assets, and they're going, oh, but they're tokens. I pointed out all the cases from 1994 to 98. Including the SEC versus MyGo, with MyGo argued we're decentralized, and the SEC said we don't care. So I went over the development things. I went over the history of dematerialization of assets. Tokens are just effectively a database record. So saying it's crypto doesn't change the fact that it's law. But they saw big dollars, and they went for the big dollars, not realizing
they want people to trade these assets, and they want the fee.
Correct. And they don't want to have all the headaches and whatever else of doing KYC for large investments. Now, it's one thing if you're doing small amounts and you're just trading so that you can buy and sell coffee and things like that. You don't need to worry about money laundering if you're trading in $50 amounts. But when you're trading large amounts, you do. And that means in aggregate. So as an example, and I confirmed this one just over the weekend, Bitfinex, I can set up, I set up a few hundred accounts again, different fake emails, fake addresses, etc. And they'll just take your money up to a certain number of BTC, which is incredibly wrong. So all these arguments, it's crypto, I don't need to. Well, actually,
but everyone knows this, right? I mean, there's kind of like there's like a silent, like there's like a, and I find this across the crypto market.
Oh,
it's actually like,
I mean, we're making helping drug dealers as mules and whatever else. So therefore, it's okay because we're putting our head in the sand, and we don't need to understand that these cartels have been using us. We don't need to understand that Russian oligarchs are laundering their money. We don't need to understand all this stuff. Why do we care? Because we're making money. Look, Bitcoin's at 35. So let's just ignore where it comes from.
So again, when I kind of like review what you've written recently, right, around, and I'll just pick a few article topics like Bitcoin and taxation, about Coinbase, right, and like when I hear you talk about the Bitcoin price, why are you picking these topics? Like, why is Coinbase like, and also give you a little bit of my thought, maybe what I think is like they're the biggest, and like I think the biggest in regards to like Western countries, like the UK, US, like it seems they have some official. They've been crowned. They've been crowned as the most official, I guess, public PR relation wise. And XRP is obviously a big target in the news. It's like this thing that everyone knew was a silent thing that's just being exposed.
Oh, it's not even XRP. It's all the other sort of crud that is peddled as if it's something. Hey, I'm solving this. Where's your statement of what you're doing? Where's your filing? Where's anything else? It's just right at the moment. Give me money because I want to do. I mean, and then they're being facilitated by these things called exchanges that are not exchanges. Coinbase isn't an exchange. They're a bucket shop.
And you say that in like, and I've heard, we've talked enough times, so I know what you mean by that. For the general audience, I think bucket shop, I should probably summarize it by now, but like gambling rig. I think of it as that. Like it's
I mean, if you look at Wolf of Wall Street, the boiler room that they had at the beginning, that would be a form of
selling pink sheets.
Yes. And the same sort of thing. Remember where it's, we make lots of money on this? That's what they're doing. It's selling crap to noobs. So if you watch Wolf of Wall Street, the crap that they were doing to people there is what this industry is doing. It is the same. And these people want the same. They want the yacht and the helicopter and whatever else, but they don't want to work for it. They don't want to have to actually do things. They don't want to have to build things. They just want you to give them money. Basically, how do you make money? We get other suckers to put more money into this, and then we can get out. And then we convince these idiots to HODL. And because, well, you don't use Bitcoin. I mean, it's a digital cash system designed for micropayments. Why would you want to use that?
Well, I want to pivot here in a second to kind of how I guess, and I want to get your opinion, like maybe exchanges, things like this, like tie into taxation and reporting. But like,
you mean
I
what
guess
they're legally required to do?
Right. No, exactly. But I want to pivot to that, but like before we go there, I want to ask, like, so like on one side, to like tip my hand, I want to say, okay, where does the government require them to like, or need them hopefully to help them do reporting? But on the other side, like, why are you picking, like, why in your blog post are you picking Coinbase specifically with like XRP? Like, why are you picking this topic out? Like, what do you think? What do you think will be the future? Like, what do you think would be the future of this XRP resolution? And then, like, how do you think companies like Coinbase will be held responsible?
Coinbase facilitated, so they're completely responsible. And I'm just making sure that they don't try and go to the regulator going, we don't know, because I'll make sure that not only myself, but others walk in there and give testimony and say, sorry, you guys knew. So,
and you're saying, and I'm reading literally the last paragraph of your blog post where you said, I'll read it. So I am more than happy to wait to see the executives at Coinbase weasel and lie their way into telling everybody that they had no idea and that they don't believe it. When they do, I'll be there, ready to provide evidence to the contrary. When the executives of Coinbase attempt to give evidence showing that they had no idea that XRP was a controlled security, I will happily demonstrate their perjury and show how they intentionally overlooked the issue, amongst many others. Now, hang on. I want to just ask one question here, and like probably different than you think. I'm not like gonna no gotchas. Why do you care about this point? Well, like fuck everything. Like forget about everything else. Why do you care?
On a perversion of what I created. So, effectively, I created a system that was designed to be traceable, that was designed to be money that could be interacted with, tracked, whatever else, to solve all the problems of digital cash in the past. That is not anarchist. It is not anti-government. It is not any of this stuff. And these scumbags who are perverting my system can face the music. effectively, and they're going to.
You think Coinbase needs to face the music, and you're saying you
Oh,
have
I think they're the
if
best
they
of a
don't
bad lot.
if they
I
don't
think they're
own up to
they're the
this
best of a.
XRP.
Yes, I mean, they can shut up and not say anything, but if they come out and say they have no knowledge, and they do that under oath, I'll make sure that they pay for that one.
So you're saying that that silence is okay, but like
Well,
if they
by law, you don't. I mean, there's
sure,
laws against
sure.
self-incrimination. So the answer is, did you know? I'm being informed not to answer because of.
You will not let them commit perjury. I think
Well,
I
it's
think
not.
that's
I
fair.
mean, not for me. But if they commit, I mean, I can't stop them from committing perjury. But if they do, I'll make sure that, well, it's well known.
Did you meet with the CEO?
Yes, I did.
It's at the same meeting.
Yes.
When is this? 2014?
No, not at that stage, but no comment at the moment. But I wasn't in London at that in 2014. But yeah.
All right, I'm gonna ask you. This whole thing is gonna become about that. All right, so here's my question then, and this is like something that I believe. I believe, and I could totally have it wrong, but I believe that Coinbase and like exchanges, and like you say, the best of a bad bunch, that they will become the default pipe or connectors to the blockchain to the government. And let me finish my thought here, and I'm sure you have I'm not explaining it properly, so feel free to correct me. But at what point is the government? Do you think there's any world where the government is more lackadaisical on enforcing some security type things because they are getting all the other access to the information they need,
Nope,
or
I don't. I don't think these guys will have anything to do with it. I think they're a bunch of clowns who haven't really run a real exchange. I think real exchanges and real financial organizations will get involved, but not yet. So, I mean, all this stuff about how much trades in BTC and whatever else, look at real financial markets. There are trillions happen a minute. This is small. So when it becomes interesting to real financial markets, which won't be because of pumping and dumping, it'll be because of use, then these guys won't compete. These guys have nothing of value. I mean, what do? They have a badly run, poorly operated exchange and wallet. So what? I mean, there are far better companies out there doing this, not on just crypto, but all sorts of assets that are licensed.
You're talking about Coinbase.
They're one of the better ones, but any of them. I mean, you're sitting there like this is difficult technology and anything like that. MT4 exchange software has been around for a long time, and that's far better than that. All this day tradery stuff is not anything special.
Do you see the volume move to like Uniswap, for example, like what everyone's claiming?
What volume? I mean, the liquidity on all these things is so low, it's not funny. I mean, what volume? Pick one of the least traded assets on the Chicago market, and it beats all this. So you're sitting there arguing as if this is big. It's too illiquid to have any real value. It goes up in price because small changes make drastic impacts. Small news makes drastic impacts. And when
but everything here is at scale. Is that how you measure the space currently?
This is not scale. This is.
No. I trust me.
Okay.
I get.
It will be
I
at
get
scale
it.
when
I get
the
it.
entire value of everything that we're talking about right now happens every nanosecond, and that will be the start of small scale. We're not talking scale here.
For sure, and I feel the need to clarify, because like I'm saying, like I don't think it's at scale either. Like I know what we're talking about is like a rounding error essentially, and
So
volume.
if you go to any beach of your choice and you pick up a random grain of sand,
yeah.
Now, then you get the number of planets equivalent to the grains of sand on that beach. Well, that grain of sand compared to those planets is about where we are compared to what a real market will be.
So, and like I actually look at that, like and I've been doing some research lately for a variety of projects, and just trying to understand like whatever BTC or like common wallets are created with like actual money in them, and it's very low, right? Like again, it's rounding errors. If you look at the global population, like, and I think even the price 3xing, and then it's on the news all the time, it's still the amount of people that are coming in here from like a complete investment perspective is very low. Like if you just bring this in the conversational point of this is an investment, if you buy a Bitcoin, the Bitcoin will go up in value. Even when it 3x's, you don't get 1 billion people that have wallets, right? And all they literally need to do is have an Android or an iPhone and like download an app and like add $1 to it. And then like even when it 3x's, people aren't jumping in. So like, do you feel like the metrics are wrong? Exactly, but like, do you? I mean, what is your
all this?
What's your
going
success
to keep going
metric?
up. Use. There's only one success metric here. Use. Anything less than 1 million transactions a day is who cares. And we've got success when we get to 1 million transactions a minute. Anything before that, who cares? Go back and work harder.
So everyone that's like celebrating the streets right now because Bitcoin's at 35,000, your message is money is great in the short term. What did you fucking actually accomplish?
What money? Unless you've actually converted that back and you're holding it as something else, you don't have money. You have an asset at the moment, and a very volatile asset. So you're sitting there saying that money. It's not that money. If you're talking about BTC, that's not money. I can't buy a coffee with BTC. I can't go out there and catch a train with BTC. The fees are far too high. I mean, if I decide to use my credit card and not pay a bill, then the fees are lower. I mean, that's the irony here. I mean, all this, you can send a lot of money around the world. And I can send a lot of money around the world for a few cents. I can send millions around the world, banking-wise, for cents. And I can do it faster in Europe than BTC. You know how quick I can send between British and European banks? It's like that. I can look at one account and see it on the other account. And it cost me 17 cents. So the only benefit of BTC in that is, oh, you don't have money laundering checks, but you will. And, oh, you can't seize my money if you're a criminal, but you will. And
or the price goes up.
Well, no, it's not even that, because the price will go, boom, gone. What do you think happens when it comes out?
I mean, did you expect 35,000 Bitcoin? Be honest. Like, I feel like there's probably
it's not Bitcoin, it's BTC, and I don't really give a rat's.
Sorry. But like, did you expect it?
Who cares? I mean, I don't even look at any of that. I mean, you can't. I mean, all this, oh, you've got this much money. No, I don't. If I went to sell, it wouldn't get it. So, I mean, if I tried to sell all I've got, the reality in BTC land would be, I'd get 1%. If I'm
Like
lucky.
you're saying the amount of Bitcoin of BTC that you're holding, and if you were to liquidate it, what the market would be able to absorb would be like 1%
Under
of the
1%.
value. Yeah.
It would decimate and then some the price. And that's without everything that's coming later this year. So sitting there and going, oh, it's worth so much. No, it's not.
And what's coming later this year is things in your life that are going to say that you own it, you're saying?
I'm saying things that are going to happen. That should have happened already, but everything's slow because of COVID. What can we say? Sigh.
The whole world's slowed down.
Everything becomes an excuse. Why? COVID. Why is this taking so long? COVID.
That's what I started telling people the other day. Like I forget what answer I heard for something, and it was COVID, and I was like, man, I feel like every business got a mulligan. One mulligan last year that you got to take, and it was like I could write one thing off and take it as COVID.
Yep.
Well, so yeah, I mean, I don't know, like why do you, for the average person listening, like for Joe Blow plumber who his cousins tell him to take $1,000 and put it in BTC and he's seen the price 3x, what do you think's gonna happen?
So this guy in a boiler room has this great new pink sheet for you, and this 1 penny stock is going to go up to $20 because, well, Bob over there in his garage, or actually his mum's garage, has told you he has new radar technology that is patent pending, but no one's ever seen the patent, even though patents are public. And it's going to be bought by the US government, even though Bob's not an American national and can't sell under defense contracts. But hey, trust him, because this guy who randomly called you and said how handsome you must be has told you you must be really smart because you're investing in cryptocurrency. Yeah, that's about it. That's about what we're talking about here. People will sit there going, I'm super smart because I've made money on paper. No, you're super smart if you've managed to take your money out and get out of it. What about those people who bought at 40? We're going to sit there and go, oh, hoodle. It'll go up to 100. And then what, 1 million? Then 10 million? Really? Think about that. And then,
I think that's a good point. Like for all the people that like quote unquote just made money on paper or whatever, and like didn't try to move it out. And I think another thing you wrote the other day was about, I think I brought it up earlier, Bitcoin and taxes. And I think you and I were talking before this call, like some of the new proposed legislation to like KYC wallets that aren't even on exchanges to send money externally. What do you kind of see in the future, like short term and maybe a little longer out, like coming that people don't understand, like in the way that they're going to be utilizing this or the new regulations that they're not expecting?
but we're not even talking new regulations here. So we're talking just old-fashioned income and capital gains. What's new about that?
But like if someone were to suggest that you cannot send, if you have Bitcoin on Coinbase and you cannot send out to a wallet that has not been KYC'd, that's obviously going to change the flow of what's going on in this market currently.
It should have happened ages ago.
Do you think that's a step that the government's about to take?
Oh, it's already law in the UK and Europe. I mean, the effect has to be in a week from now. I pointed this one out over a year ago, and everyone
that every wallet, even not on the exchange, has to be KYC'd if sending out externally.
Any custodial wallet, yes. Plus, there needs to be the normal money laundering checks for amounts over 200 euros, which means a whole lot of things like that. Plus, there needs to be all the taxation requirements, the reporting requirements, the KYC requirements. So basically, crypto has been brought in line, and everyone sits there going, "Oh, we're not custodial." I'm sorry, every exchange, DeFi or not, is custodial. The whole point is you can't control your asset in an exchange and go, "Well, I'm going to pull out of the contract." If you can do that, then it's not an exchange. And if you can't do that, it's custodial. And explaining this and going, "Oh, it's crypto, it's different." Sorry, that doesn't count. I mean, this is the whole thing. It's a bunch of noobs running around thinking that they can get out of sort of law that's been around for a long time, merely by arguing that it's crypto and it's different. That's a really stupid position to be in.
So now I'm beating up on Coinbase today because I'm taking it from something I read from you. But like, so, and because I know they operate in the UK, right? And one of the biggest providers. So how does that affect a company like Coinbase when they are getting ready to go public in different, jurisdictions? What does that look like for prospective investors? Like, are they facing uncertainty? What it'll do to their market share, or?
Don't care. I mean, let's see. I mean, you're going to fulfill all of the Financial Conduct Authority's requirements. That will mean no leverage trading, no short selling, no naked short selling, no no CFDs. CFDs on crypto are legal here in the UK now. Hasn't stopped people. And sitting there going, "It won't get me because I'm crypto." Well, yeah, it will. And as people have seen, like BitMEX we talked about, it can be years later.
Well,
same with tax.
I think even with Ripple, right, or XRP, but so I mean,
and it's
actually,
funny, none of these companies have paid any tax either. I mean, and the amounts that, I mean, even with the fraud legislation and all these other things, eventually the tax offices in all these countries are going to get involved. So that's the irony here. Everyone running around going, "I don't need to pay no stinking tax." Well, yeah, you do.
So, like, do you think that their ability to operate is going to become limited because the amount of services that they offered before, the way they structure their company, is no longer relevant? Like, you just started listing off things that they, like, products they wouldn't, or menu options they wouldn't be able to offer. Does that list of menu options reduce? Does it basically come to the point where they're like an online wallet and why do I need you? Like,
yes, a simple use, sell, exchange. I mean, how it should have been in the first place. None of these guys should have been allowed to operate, except they lied, bullshitted, and sort of scammed their way into continuing operation, arguing, "Oh, we're innovating." I mean, if I beat someone on the head with a hammer, then that's not innovation. I mean, it might be a different use for a hammer, but I'm sorry, it's still not innovation. And shoehorning other things that are completely not at all new or innovative and saying that they're innovation, so you're stifling us. I mean, bull. The only use for Bitcoin is sort of as a security tool, not securities, as a monetary unit, as a transfer unit, as cash, not this store of value, which it isn't even a store of value because it changes. Store of value means no volatility. If you have more than 0.1% volatility, you're not a store of cash. So, I mean, it's people who have no idea about finance jumping in there, and those who do have ideas about finance basically running a boiler room and getting up grandma because you'll make grandma money.
do you think there's any room for like, do you think there's any outcome in which companies like CoinDesk lobby the government, or?
Oh no, I think the CoinDesk are a bunch of scumbags.
No, but I'm saying, like,
No,
is there an outcome in which they try to pay off politicians?
I think that outcome will happen right after pedophilia, rape, and murder are legalized, and people get paid bounties for every child that they do something to. That will happen first.
Before Coinbase is able to fund political campaigns.
They
to,
don't have
like,
enough
get their way.
money. I mean, I think you underestimate how much.
I mean, like, why would they be allowed to go for a public IPO if that's what it looks like they're about to do? I mean, like, shouldn't regulators stop them if what they're doing is so egregious?
Why?
Why would the regulators stop them? Or
regulators aren't
what's your
that quick.
question?
They're not that well funded. So your assumption is
well, this is kind of my question. Like, are they slowing? Like, is it pay to play like other industries that like?
No,
that
they'll
they
do their
fund
thing. They'll raise money, and then they'll be slapped on the wrist afterwards when it's demonstrated. I mean,
got it. So you think they will coexist, and like they'll get slapped on the wrist later?
I don't even know if they'll get that far. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I wouldn't put a cent into an IPO by Coinbase at the moment. I mean, they're completely overvalued for what they're doing. I mean, innovation. What innovation? We have a exchange where we've got software out of the 1990s that's recompiled to run on newer products.
And every time there's a a decent amount of volume, that crashes every single time. Every time there's like all-time transactions, their product crashes every single time. Like,
yeah.
Like,
I mean, the Australian Stock Exchange, when we set it up and put it on the internet 25 years ago, could handle more volume than every cryptocurrency and every cryptocurrency exchange combined. So what volume?
Yeah.
If a small country in the arse end of the world, Australia, can do that sort of stuff, that that small country, not America, not Europe, can have more volume than everything we have on this globe right now, and you're saying this is innovation?
Is your argument that there should never be an exchange for cryptocurrency? Is there no room for an exchange?
No. There shouldn't be an exchange for cryptocurrency. There should be exchanges, ones that will do money, fiat, and things like this, as you have now, as a regulated now. So what is so different about this? The whole thing is where people running around going, we're a different sort of asset, we're not covered by law. Of course you are. Basically, anyone telling you that their exchange is different and doesn't need to be regulated because it's cryptocurrency is scamming you. They are either, as I said, a complete moron or intentionally lying. There's no middle ground here. There's no one who is not a moron can actually analyze this and go, it's different.
I mean, because like, I do understand certain technological requirements, I guess, like whatever, like hooking in a variety of blockchains, and this could present a little bit of a roadblock, not massive,
but you're not selling,
massive enough to.
There's no on-chain thing. That's bullshit.
Yeah, no, exactly. So,
I'm
just kind of like
selling an asset. There's no difference between selling wheat and selling BTC. I mean, all this, how you deliver it in a wallet. I mean, the wallet technology hasn't updated in bloody 10 years.
Well, this is kind of my point, I guess. Like, understanding a little bit from the tech side, like, no one that like really has exchanges. It's really been exchanges building up to like acquire technology to allow them to run halfway feasibly. and where that a lot of this technology had already probably been in place from traditional markets. So was it
What do
that?
you mean a lot? All of it. There's nothing new developed here.
Yeah. Well, okay, exactly. So you're helping me with my point. So my question is like, would you say that like part of why those exchanges were created was because they couldn't find a home in traditional platforms, so that like they needed to go build their own, that they couldn't
No, because
actually
traditional
like,
platforms are regulated, so you can't run boiler shops and bucket.
well, okay, but still my question, they couldn't find a home. Like you
No,
could question why they couldn't find a
no.
home.
There are many illegal exchanges right now, many illegal casinos right now. So how is this different?
I'm not sure that it is. And I think
That's the
that's
whole
the
point.
argument you're making.
Yeah.
And no,
I mean,
that's why I'm
all
excited.
they're running around is saying we're innovative and we're different, but they're not. Anyone who tells you that they're any different on an exchange and has anything to do with these exchanges is lying. They're completely, utterly fabricating and making things up. There is no innovation on any of these exchanges. None. Zero. My grandmother's bloody used mattress has more innovation in it.
It must be a hell of a used mattress.
Or
But
a
no,
hell of
I hear you.
the other.
But I hear you. And like this actually, why I want to have this conversation a little bit is because I look at the market now and I'm like, everyone's lost their mind again. Bitcoin 3x. All these people from around the world are going to hear from their friend, whatever.
If I
and
went
I'll
down,
kick it to you 1 second. Hang tight. Give me 1 second. I'll kick it to you. But I see all these people kind of rushing towards something that's now more shiny than it might have perceived to be before, and that they might step in and make some really bad decisions. So that's actually why I wanted your perspective on these topics today, and I'll kick it back to you.
My answer
It's like,
is
what
very
is?
simple.
Go ahead.
If I went down the road and I randomly approached, say, 500 people, I bet I would not find more than one or two who had used Bitcoin or derivative systems. So saying, I've read it in the paper or whatever else, who cares? Have you used it? And if I can't, in a sample of 1,000 people, find 10 people who've done it, so what? I've gambled with Bitcoin, big deal. That's meaningless.
Virtually no one on the planet has used it.
Practically no. I mean,
like, but I think that's a whole nother conversation.
But it's not.
That's purely about marketing.
No, that's about use. I mean, you're talking about a commodity that is being traded that no one uses. So when it's being used, it has value, and the value should be directed by the use. So if you're talking about speculation,
then
that's gambling.
I'll ask the next question. Is the perfect product that you think people should use out on the market today available to download right now or utilize?
Yes, Bitcoin was always there, but
so like
BTC
has that
not,
so that. Okay, but like my point would be that even in like the perfect, and I use this example for many things of technology, even if the perfect solutions exist, what it comes down to is like messaging. Like the simple fact is we need to talk to 1 billion people, and like
disagree.
actually,
I think in 20 years' time, no one will give a shit that they're using Bitcoin, but they'll be using it.
Sure, you're saying more for an infrastructure play that's like behind the scenes. Like,
yes, it's not. It was never there to replace the US dollar or any of this stuff. It might be backing things. There will be people using it in Venezuela and places like that. But most of use of Bitcoin, people won't even know what the hell they're using. And that's how it will work. And for most of the world's industries, no one knows anything about them. So if you were to talk about Maersk, shipping company, one largest companies sort of in the world, if they failed, basically half the world will probably starve. People know about them? No, not really. other than watching a Tom Hanks movie and seeing their ship, no one has a clue. So the majority of things in the world that actually matter, no one has an idea at all about.
Sure. No, it's a great point.
So most of the world's modern technology requires chromium and cobalt and other things like this. Cobalt, for instance, most people have no idea what the hell it is, where it comes from. They don't understand the trade problems with Central African nations. They don't understand the interaction with Congolese nations in China. Have no clue. Most governments have no clue. They don't understand how critical some of these things are. Yet it's required. It's there. Every mobile phone you have is going to require it. So.
Things are moving fast. Well, I'm glad to have this conversation with you. I know it was like a little bit all over the place, but like, I don't know. It's about to be a wild ride. I feel like 2021, we're going to continue that, like, these conversations for this event or whatever. And like, I don't know. It's fun to look back on 2020 and watching after like 7-8 months. Right. And like, what was said here? What was the reality? And so, hey, I know we're running a little over here, but like, take us out. Like, what are you excited for the next few months? What do you think people should keep an eye on? Whatever topic you want to cover, like
Things that I'm building, but most of which I can't talk about because either patents haven't been filed or launched or whatever else, and they're not quite ready for me to talk about. So in the next week or so, there'll be a few interesting things, none of which I can talk about, but you'll know what they are and know that that's what I'm hinting at when they happen in the next few days, whatever. But more than that, I can't say anything.
what about for the world? Like, right before this call, I was watching the U.S. Senate or House about to impeach Donald Trump again. Everyone's going crazy. Coronavirus. Like, what's your advice to the world the next few months? And I'll say one last thing. I think everyone thinks everything's about to be over and 2021 is this new year, and I'm not convinced that it is. Like, I think people are gonna have to fight actually to like get back to normal. Like,
I think people have got to realize that they have to fight just to have everything. If you want a world with freedom, if you want a world that works as a democracy and a republic, then you have to remember that it means interaction and work. So we are becoming too complacent in the West. We're allowing big tech companies like Facebook and Google to basically become Orwellian in nature, to control the narrative, and we're sitting there doing nothing. If we want freedom, if we want a system that allows us to have, well, a say and an interaction in communities that we're involved with, then we have to remember that comes with work and effort. We can't just sit back and sit there and go, I don't care who wins. We have to actually be active in state what we believe. We have to actually fight for free speech. We have to fight to make sure that anyone has a point of view that can be said is allowed to. And we have to ensure that anyone who gets in the way of political free speech isn't just ostracized, but is punished for it. So I don't agree with a lot of what has been said in either side of the US election, but it's the old, but I'll fight for your right to say it. And there are other things you do. If you say someone's inciting violence, then that's not free speech, but you don't stop them saying things. You pull them up afterwards and you take action and you use the evidence of what they've said. So
do you think Twitter should remove Donald Trump?
I think Twitter should be removed. I think Twitter is horribly divisive and toxic platform that all it does is incite violence and acts as a platform to enable people to basically do things with no validity. So it enables people in terrorist sort of cells and whatever else to communicate. It does very little of positive nature at all. I think Twitter is a cesspool that needs to be drained.
And
My
replaced
personal opinion.
well, now I think there's 75 million people in America that are running in the streets right now that after they removed Donald Trump are saying the same thing. And they also removed Parler, but so like Parler was their alternative or one of a few. Replaced by what? Nothing? Or there's a way to
Twitter
moderate this?
No, I think just get rid of Twitter altogether.
But replaced by what? Like
Twitter, nothing. Turn it off. I mean, other platforms.
But like people are going to want a way to communicate over digital platforms. Right? Like
then don't have digital platforms that are anonymous. One, get rid of all anonymous communications like that.
So that's what you're advocating
right now,
for. Put a face to a name. Don't let people hide behind the shadows. They're going to say something.
There's something like 800 to 1 type of all this political stuff. Bots run by China and Russia right now. There was a recent paper, academic paper.
People have no idea. I mean, 60-year-old aunts and 80-year-old grandmothers that don't know anything about tech.
Well, most people aren't on Twitter. I mean, this is the thing. Everyone sits there saying,
right, or Facebook or whatever. They just follow these public pages, and they see people commenting with the picture that matches their stereotype, and they don't realize it's a bot. And like they're literally either arguing with someone that's not real or agreeing with someone that's not real. That could be stereotyped on a psychological profile that like they don't even need to like interact with it. Just seeing it is a reinforcement.
Yeah. So no, I think if these guys want to be a platform, then what they need to do is ensure that there's real identities. And if they're not putting up real identities, then that's a problem.
And do you think that urge is going to go away? Like, do you think that humanity has an urge to post not anonymously or to communicate like that?
I don't think people have an urge to post anonymously. I think most people aren't posting anonymously. I think there are a few people who abuse these sort of systems because there are always, I mean, we have an in-group, out-group nature. Humans are hierarchical. We will never be equal. We will never sort of accept a world of equality, contrary to what people say. We are tribal. We have a root in tribal society, and we follow those sort of things. So we want to be part of an in-group, and people exploit that online. People who are anonymous can even play these things and use the psychological sort of differences in our nature against us. And we see that a lot in the whole BTC community. So, and cryptocurrency generally. You have the creation of specialist language, the HOODL bit, where people sit there going, you're not a real Bitcoiner, or you're not a whatever else. Think about what that really means. I mean, it's really nothing to do with the technology. It's manipulating the psychology on social media to get noobs to basically spread the message, buy things, give up their money.
Right.
So
it's very tribalist. Like, and the people that own these groups, like everyone has no idea the people that own these groups are the ones moderating it and pumping coins, and it's a lot of bullshit. Well, yep. I think I look forward to continuing to talk about what is the bullshit here and actually calling people out and like telling the truth. And I think I'm more committed than ever in 2021 to really just like talk about what's actually going on. And you know, I don't know. I think I share the same effect as you in that I think, and that's why I really wanted to talk to you today is like, as this Bitcoin price increases, right? I just think there's this huge opportunity for a new onslaught of messaging and
Well,
deceiving people that if we're not careful, a bunch of people are going to get hurt. And if there's ever
unfortunately,
a
they
time to
will.
talk,
But
it's now. Yeah, go ahead.
a lot of things will be happening. So this is my heads up for people. If they have profits, take them, because it's going to get painful for them.
What would you invest in this world?
Things you understand. I mean, if you don't understand the market, basically do an index fund. Apart from short-term individuals going, look, I've beat the market, nobody beats the market long-term. Contrary to what people try and tell you, even Berkshire Hathaway hasn't beaten the market long-term. Berkshire Hathaway had to get bailed out. If Berkshire Hathaway didn't get bailed out, Berkshire Hathaway would have been broke. So saying, oh, apart from the government giving us money to bail us out, we beat the market, isn't beating the market. So the only people who beat the market have inside knowledge and understand things. And that means I believe in my company and I'm building it, and you're lucky and hardworking and know what you're doing. So what would I invest in? What I'm already investing in, NChain, for instance, but we're not selling to the public. So yeah, sorry, can't help you. I'm greedy. I want to not give up my chunk of that. So too bad.
All right. Well, I don't know. I think it's going to be a hell of a year. We're going to throw this event again next month, and I have a weird suspicion that the conversation in BTC now, or the whole market, might be like astronomically different. Like
I think
today,
it might
everyone.
be different this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I think something's coming. Like it's not sustainable. Like
yeah,
I
that's
think,
all I'll say. I've said too much already, so that's my limit.
Well, I'll try to decipher that and keep an eye on the news. But all right, Craig, it was good talking to you. It's almost 1 a.m. for me. This is my first interview. I retired from interviews for a bit. I haven't had them in 2 months. I came out of this is my rusty interview out of the closet. But next time I show up, I gotta wear a suit. You're inspiring. Cool.
Alrighty.
Any last words before we take off?
Yes. Work hard, understand what you're doing. Don't expect to get rich without actual effort. And don't make that your end goal. Try and do something. If you want a life of dignity, find something dignified to do.
No, I would agree with that. Especially now for anyone listening. Like, I know this market seems exciting. I know everyone's rushing right now. Oh, this is easy way to make money. Easy. The jackpot's running and it's printing money. Go grab money from the ATM machine. It can't last forever because it won't be special, right? So you can't build a life around that. You can't, right? Like, no. And I know it seems like some people are celebrities right now, and they were so right and had all these good instincts. And trust me, they also lost money at other times, and they're only telling you when they win. So
I can definitely agree with that one.
All right, let's end this. Craig, it was good talking to you.
Good to see you. Yeah.
For everybody watching, I don't know what point we're at, even how long this conference is going to be. This is version 6, somewhere in the middle of 72 hours or so. Enjoy your day, and look forward to talking to you guys more. Have a good one.